I was there altogether for 11 years, so, and with the idea of charging, with the charge of sort of like, this needs to become the flagship art museum for Greater Miami. There's no great city that doesn't have a great art museum. So that was the charge. And at that point in time, the Center for the Fine Arts was 10 years old, so this was a sort of 10-year looking at what was going on. And the Center for the Fine Arts was a department of county government, and it was also had a 501c3 board. And I bring that up because one of the things that we did, the first thing that we did was community-wide planning. Because there was a really broad sense that whatever we did needed to look like Miami. So that means it needed to look like, and Miami had a very particular geography. It was really, in many ways, the capital of the Americas. It was right at a pivotal geographic point between South America, the Caribbean, and North America. So it was really a place in the middle of the Western Hemisphere. And so we went out and we interviewed probably 100 people in discussion groups that took place at homes. Some of them took place at the center. Some of them were in English, some of them were in Spanish, some of them were in Creole. We interviewed high school students. We interviewed, we had a meeting where we interviewed all the religious leaders in town. And I remember a rabbi got up and said, we need 20/20 vision to make this happen. So out of that, we had, from that whole discussion, we had what we called the 5 big ticket items. And that was that people wanted their art museum to be on a beautiful waterfront site. And there was a sense that as one young man from the New World School, I'll never forget this, said, it needs to have columns and look like a classical building, but it also needs a place where you can skateboard through it, which I thought was a gorgeous image, a really gorgeous image, and appropriate to Miami. People felt that education was critical, that we needed to have a broad educational program, and that if we started a collection, that it needed to be done in a very careful way so that only very good works of art were accepted into the collection. And so those were our marching orders. It needed to look like Miami, it needed to be of high quality, it needed to have a very strong education program that would be really open to families, and it needed a major site on the waterfront. So, okay, armed with those big items, we went back to the county manager and described that we needed to get a new site of land. And we hired someone who was a specialist in looking for sites, and we went around and we evaluated sites throughout. I mean, this went on for well over a year. And while we were doing that, we came up with a number of different sites, but the site we really wanted was Museum Park, a place where people who did all kinds of naughty things hung out. It was kind of a haven for drug addicts and the like. And it turned out that other people wanted the site as well, including the Marlins. So with and we in the meantime made an alliance with the Science Museum that wanted that site as too, and came up with a plan that we would go after a vision of a museum park. That there are very wonderful examples of museum parks around the world, and we looked to them as exemplars for Miami. That there would be a 30-acre property, and there would be a science museum, and there would be an art museum.